Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the FlickHeads. I am Des.
And I'm Dom. Welcome back. And today we're talking about the 4:30 movie. Uh, so this is the movie we watched this week, Des. And what did you think?
Well, I think it's tapped into something that a lot of new stuff is tapping into the nostalgia of a particular era, and in this case, it's the 80s. Um, it just a real feel good movie, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. What do you think
I, th-
yourself?
I, th- I think you're right. It's a bittersweet comedy drama, coming of age, pretty predictable at times. You can tell, but it's one of those films. You know what's going to happen. Guy chases a girl, bit of a fallout, and gets a girl in the end. But it's everything that happens in between. It's basically a autobiographical film from Kevin Smith, one of my favorite directors, and he captures everything from the 80s that we love. In that movie, there's so many references, so many movie references, and keeping it in 1986, when it's a 17-year-old Kevin trying to ask out a girl that he had previously went with the year before but never called back, and it's all then they want to go to the movies and he asks her out to the movies, but it's just sort of a time hop back to the 80s where so many movies references when they are in the cinema and they're talking about films and they're talking about what they're going to see and what's going to happen. Like they'll never make a Batman film because who's going to watch that?
Who's who's going to pay to see a Batman movie? I think is what he said. Yeah. I think some of those references were deliberately, you know, obvious for comedy effect. They weren't subtle hints towards it. It was the similar when we talked about Star Wars. I'm so glad they're not making any more of those. What are they going to do? Make episodes 1 to 3 and have a spin off about a character like Boba Fett? Who's going to watch that? So they were
Yes, and
very obvious references, but enjoyable.
definitely enjoyable. For our age, for people moviegoers our age who love that type of nostalgia, and we'll go and watch it and go, oh my god, I mentioned Jaws, and I mentioned Planet of the Apes, and I mentioned Rocky Four, and I mentioned Godfather, or quotes from the Brady Bunch, and
Yeah.
it's just a feel good movie. And because we're of that age where we love all that stuff, and they mention it, and you're like, oh my god, this is brilliant. But in reality, it's just Kevin Smith writing films for his fans and a bit of an autobiographical one for him. It's his
Yeah.
first PG-13 film as well, which I was surprised about because if you've seen any other Kevin Smith films, they're pretty much, which is ironic because the kids in the film are trying to get into an R-rated film, and all Kevin
Yeah.
Smith's films are R-rated, so they're trying to get in to see an R-rated one, and the rest of his films are all full of bad language and sex
Yeah.
jokes and things like that. So this is his first PG-13 one, and it's a bit lighthearted and fun, and passes like an hour and a half for a bit of nostalgia reasons. Yeah,
Yep, that's it. It's easy viewing, and sometimes that's what you need.
I noticed the first thing that you said to me when you watched it was, "Oh my god, Major Murder is Sergeant Slaughter."
Yeah.
So
Major,
it's not
maybe,
it's not just movie references.
well, that's it. There's some where he's created, like some characters based on others, like Sergeant Slaughter. Then there's other references to actual movies and actual things from the 80s.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things I enjoyed that was made up for the movie was the movie trailers. When you went to the cinema, the one that sticks in mind in particular was Booties, where they had
Yes.
a cameo role from Jason Biggs
Yeah.
in a fake movie trailer.
I
That
didn't
made
know
me
if
laugh.
you got that cameo. I didn't know if you had noticed that was Jason Biggs.
Oh yes, I noticed that.
It,
I noticed a couple of cameos in the
yes,
trailers in particular, but that
and
one stood out for me.
I feel the Booties trailer was a rip off of the Ghoulies films. There was 80s
Right.
films and called Ghoulies 1 and 2, and they no, actually in that film they said the first one is just Ghoulies, or they had a discussion about if it's just the first film, there's no number one in front of it.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
And I just said it.
Was it
So
Poltergeist they were talking about? Poltergeist
Poltergeist
1?
one.
No, it's just Poltergeist. It's not
Yeah,
Poltergeist
exactly.
1.
So Ghoulies one. I want to say it again. Ghoulies and Ghoulies two. I feel that Booties was a bit of a parody of that film when they
Yeah.
were doing that trailer. But yes, the trailers are quite Tarantino-esque, I thought, because if you've ever seen Grindhouse from Tarantino, where he puts Planet Terror and what's the other one? I just keep wanting to say Drive Angry, but he put in the Grindhouse movie, there's two movies together and fake trailers in between. And one of the fake trailers was Machete. And then that went on to be made into a proper film. So I was sort of hoping Sister Sugar Walls might get made into a proper film. None by day, hooker by night, you know.
It reminded me of nude nuns with big guns. It popped into my head
Right.
whenever I seen the
That was a
trailer.
good one. That was a good one many years ago. So the Sister Sugar Walls was played by Kevin Smith's daughter,
Right, okay.
Harley Quinn Smith, and his daughter is called Harley Quinn, named after the Batman universe character Harley Quinn. And the other Sister Black Eye, wasn't it? That was Kevin Smith's wife. So in that trailer, it was his wife and daughter. In that, so that was quite interesting. Another wee tidbit, Easter egg, if you know your Kevin Smith stuff.
Yeah.
And the guy in the car in the trailer for Sister Sugar Walls who asks the nun out or something, that's Jason Mewes, who plays Jay in Jay and Silent Bob.
Right, okay. Well, yeah, it's no surprise to see him in there somewhere. So
yeah, and there's loads of other, like you say, Jason Biggs, and they have plenty of other characters from all his other movies. The guy in the queue is in the cinema queue, who said about Hands Across the World. That's Justin Long.
Yes, I recognised him. One of the ones that stood out for me when he was talking about Rocky 4. And
yes,
the main character tells him, "Oh, the Russian," and he's like, "I don't know if he's Russian. That's not important." In Rocky 4, it's very important. You know, it's a big important part of the plot.
I think it's quite important. I think it's quite important in that timeline, in that era as well, because wasn't America in the middle of the Cold War at the time?
Well, that's it. Yeah. So
there's a few mentions of the Russians as well. But yes, that was interesting having Justin Long in it too. And when the guy says to the dad, "I'm going to tell my dad on you," in the other line, that's another character from Kevin's movies. So
right. There you go. So on to the main cast. What did you think of the main cast for the actual movie rather than all those little side plots?
All the wee side spots. Well, I loved the two main characters, Austin Sadger and Sienna Agadung was the main two. I'm not sure if I pronounced her name there, so if she ever watches this, I apologize if I pronounced it correctly.
I'm sure it should be one of the 8 viewers that we had.
Yes, maybe. But yes, and I actually was listening to Kevin on a podcast recently, and they asked him where he found Austin Sadger for the role, and he said, I found him sleeping with my daughter, and that's actually his daughter's boyfriend.
Right. Okay.
So it's all connected. You know, when you start,
you get a role like that. You know, people will ask questions whether you got it based on your talent, but I think he played that role fantastically. You'd swear he was straight out of the 80s himself.
It is funny to see them play those young characters play someone in the 80s who weren't even born. You know, they have no experience of that, whereas we're watching going, oh my God, that's supposed to be Sergeant Slaughter, that's Run DMC, or that's The Godfather they're talking about, or Star Wars.
Yeah.
But as far as they go, like we said at the start, it's just a bittersweet comedy drama that makes you feel good. Guy chases the girl, and then there's a bit of a fallout amongst friends, and then they all make up at the end. A pretty straightforward drama, but it's what happens in between. Cinema hopping, and the cinema, you know, is Kevin Smith's actual cinema.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He bought that up to stop it from being closed down. That was his hometown cinema. in New Jersey, and he bought it, and then obviously filmed in it. So could probably film as much as he wants. He's used to filming in his own places of work. Saying he started off at the Quick Stop. So,
Yeah,
but
that's
as
it.
far as the main characters were funny and engaging, and as you said, maybe they got the 80s vibe just right.
Yeah, that's it. What do you think of Ken Jeong's character as the theater manager? I thought he was. I hadn't realized he was in it when I sat down to watch it, so it was a welcome surprise seeing him in that role.
I do like him as a comedy actor. He's funny in The Hangover and stuff. At some points, I thought he was maybe too over the top to be a nasty cinema manager, but he was funny. And do you know what I loved? And I don't know if you picked up on this, and you might pick it up the next time you watch it. So, do you remember when he gets the call from his mother in the cinema? And
I have something written down, but I'll let you say first what you're gonna say.
so he gets the call from his mother, right? And then he goes back into the cinema, and then he gets another call from Melody. And Ken Jeong goes, "Okay, then I don't have time for your family ties, Alex P. Keaton." And
Right.
Alex
Okay.
P. Keaton is Michael J. Fox's character in Family Ties.
Right. Okay.
So a Back to the
So that,
Future
that
reference.
ties into our episode 1 of our podcast,
That
doesn't
ties
it?
into Back to the Future from last week, but that was quite a niche one that I was like, he's said Alex P. Keaton, which is, I don't have time for your family ties, which is
Yeah.
Alex P. Keaton and Michael J. Fox. So I enjoyed that. Um,
Well, I hadn't picked up on that, but
what was your one?
I laughed uncontrollably whenever when his mom said, "I lost one before you and I lost one after you," and he says, "Ma, I don't have time to talk about my ghost siblings." You know, he's in the middle of a movie. I laughed at that line.
My
That
ghost
was great.
siblings. I wonder if they haunt them or haunt the mother. But yeah, I enjoyed Ken Young's. Suppose it was an over exuberant performance.
Yeah, well, I suppose that a lot of movies are. You know, if he told it
Yeah,
exactly how it was, would it be entertaining enough? So, the character was right over the top, and the way he had his, the cones out the front from the park, and he thought he was a celebrity himself as a cinema manager.
yeah. I'm on the phone to Paramount,
Yeah,
and really he's just trying to get popcorn and stuff from
that's it.
cinemas. And the movie mobile when he
Yeah,
had it, and he thought it was the Batmobile, so that was a cool reference too. No, I enjoyed Ken Young in it. He did bring a lot of comedy to it, but as you say, it was over exaggerated for the film. One thing I was disappointed was when he asked Melody out, and then they went to the cinema. She wasn't in the film for like 45 minutes. Given
yeah.
that the point of the film was asking her out and going on a date. But then I also enjoyed him hanging out with his mates. He's just hanging
Well,
out.
was it the point of the film, or was the main plot line about how you skip in and out of movies with a single cinema ticket, how you beat the system, so to speak, and about his childhood, and that was, which was the main element of the movie? Would you say?
I felt it was more. I felt it was more slipping in and out of the movies. But at the start, when he's asking her out, I thought she was going to come into it a lot sooner, as in going to the movies with them.
Yeah.
But it turned out that she couldn't get away until 7 o'clock.
Well, that's it.
Or
The
maybe
group
that's
that
what
said that
happened in real life.
maybe it is, or maybe that's how they kept the focus on the friend group rather
Yeah.
than the girl coming in by having her delay until the later showing and have the drama unfold with the guys at the 4:30 movie.
Yes, and then another thing, did you notice the talking about Hands Across America
Mm-hmm.
in the film? So that was the big peace thing that was happening at the time. But the Hands Across America happened on the day that the film is supposed to take place, May 25th, 1986, when Brian
Right.
David speaks into his tape recorder to record the day and the date, and he records all his thoughts because he wants to be a writer. And May 25th, 1986 was the day that Hands Across America actually took place in real life.
Mhm.
So another small thing that he inserted in that was actually
Yeah.
real life. So it's quite kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, let's go slightly off the movie. Do you have any? Did you ever sneak in and out of the cinema?
I was just about to ask you that when you mentioned it, and then I thought about the Hands Across the World thing. But I think I only ever did it once, and it was for the re-release of The Exorcist in 1998, back in the
Right.
cinemas. And I can't remember what film I paid to go and see,
Hmm.
but I did sneak into The Exorcist and to see it. But by that stage, I'd already seen it. I had got a Betamax copy from a friend in school and took it
Hmm.
to a video converter place and paid £10 to get it converted to VHS when I was about 11 or 12. And that's when I watched it.
It's a lot of money in the 90s, isn't
A
it?
lot of money in the 90s. It would have been 93, 94. So it was banned then, you see. So it was like having one of those, oh my God, I got something not meant to see.
Yeah.
And I'd
Yeah.
already read the book at that point. So I wanted to see the film. And I managed to get a Betamax copy, but I didn't have a player. So I obviously went and got it converted for a tenner. But as you
So
say, a
you
lot
were a
of money
movie
back
buff
in those days. Had you
even
ever,
as early. Yeah, I'm just saying you were a movie buff even as early as the 90s. My real interest in movies came about sort of a wee bit later than that, as I sort of maybe 16 to 18 kind of age. But
yeah,
the only I do have one memory of leaving and getting into a couple of different movies, but I can't remember the movies we snuck into. I can only remember the movie we snuck that we bought the ticket for, which was The Nightmare Before Christmas,
right.
which at the time I didn't appreciate as a real great movie. But at that time, once when we were watching it, and it was an animation, and the ones that I was at the cinema with weren't appreciative of it at all. So we snuck out of it and went into a couple of different films. So I don't know, time frame was that mid 90s, Nightmare Before Christmas. Um, but I don't know what I snuck into. But yeah, it is something I did, which is why another reason why the movie um, resonated so well.
Resonates with you, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe it was a thing. Maybe it was a bigger thing in America to sneak into other movies. I just felt it maybe wasn't something possible with our movie theaters, or maybe it was, and I just never did it.
Yeah, too afraid to
You know,
get caught.
maybe we're just too honest.
Yeah, yeah, that's what it is.
But
Um,
um, I was sort of thinking. I was trying to count up the movie references. How many references do you think is in the 4:30 movie?
well, I made a quick list, but it wasn't exhaustive, and I have seven, eight movie references and the music reference. But I'm certain there was more than that.
I made a few notes too as well when I was watching it because I love keeping count of stuff like that. And
Yeah,
especially as we said, we're talking about Star Wars outside the dental school fake film that they were trying to get in an R-rated film. And
yeah,
something I actually thought as well before going to the list was the whole movie is they're trying to get into an R-rated film, but they can drive. And it baffles me that they can drive a car, but they can't go and see an 18 or R-rated film. And
yeah,
then Bernie or Belly, the characters, there's two friends, actually said that in the queue. Says it sucks. I can drive a car, but I can't go and see an R-rated film, which is kind of
yeah.
seems a bit silly. But some of the references I saw was Jaws, Planet of the Apes, The Godfather, Rocky Four, The Brady Bunch, Play Misty for Me, Back to the Future, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Young Sherlock Holmes, Commando. The planes quote was from the man with the golden gun and James Bond.
All
The
right.
Bill Cosby joke, he'll always be beloved. How that aged well, didn't it?
Yeah,
When Brian David is at the back of the steps when he feels like his world's falling apart, and the girl from the ticket office is there, and she goes, "Who do you think I am, Father Karras?" And that's from The Exorcist. Father Karras from The Exorcist. They mentioned
Right.
John Boorman, Martha Coolidge, Alan Parker, Nicolas Cage, Wizard of Oz, Jason, Freddy, Michael, Leatherface. So
Well,
it
that's quite a list there.
quite a
On top
list.
of that, I have Top Gun,
Oh, yep.
E.T., Conan, and then I have a lot of the ones that you've said there as well.
And Poltergeist and
Poltergeist, and
Batman,
of course we've already mentioned Batman and Star Wars.
Star Wars. So for geeks like us to have all that movie in movie reference, we're like, oh my god, it's talking about movies in movies. It's just cool. But yeah, so many references that resonate with us that makes us enjoy that type of film.
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely.
And the character that Sienna plays, Melody, obviously, she's quite a young character, so she came from the Disney show or the Disney Channel, so she's a lot of Disney stuff under her belt. So she's not someone that we would have seen even in anything recent, really.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so she was quite new to us, but I thought she played the role really well. I loved it to start when she was on the phone with him, and he was just rhyming off all the stuff that he wanted until he could pluck up the courage to ask her out. I thought
Yeah,
that was quite cool as well.
I think without the very obvious modern day references harken back to the 80s,
Yes,
you could almost believe it is an 80s movie. I think it was styled so well, and the characters, the way they talk, it's very well written of the era that it's set in. So if
yeah,
you didn't know the movie and you took out those obvious references that couldn't have been written back then about episodes 1, 2, and 3 of Star Wars and the Bill Cosby joke, I could actually believe that movie was made in the 80s,
but
which
maybe
is
those references could have been made. You know, there would have been kids in school in '86 going, "Oh my god, they're making a Batman movie," and then someone else in the class goes, "That'll be crap. No one's
yeah.
ever going to watch a Batman movie." Because I think by the '80s, Batman was quite camp, wasn't he?
Right.
He's
Well,
from
from the TV show.
coming off the '60s TV show wasn't as superhero esque as maybe it is now. It's not. It
Yeah,
wasn't dark. It wasn't dark or gothic. It was a far cry from the comic books. It was,
yeah,
and it is consistently referred back to as camp, as it was
yeah.
in the '60s. So, I mean, a lot of people enjoyed it, but I don't think people maybe expected the Michael Keaton Batman to be as good as it was then.
Oh,
And then
that,
it
yeah,
obviously,
absolutely. And that'll definitely be on the list for future discussion.
yes, we'll have to give that a
It's good.
rewatch and get a wee discussion on that one too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, there was another thing they mentioned as well. This why do we always have to stay to the end of the movie in case there's a post-credit scene? Oh my god, that was one movie, and they'll never do that again. And then obviously that's become a thing as well. And funny enough, there's a post-credit scene in this movie as well.
And
So
there is a post credit scene in this movie. So
which
there
I
is.
didn't know and you have seen. So I'll tell you about the post-credit scene, and you can tell me about the other one.
Okay.
So I only saw the post-credit scene this morning, and it was they're sitting on the bench and um they're talking about going for a job, and the character Brian David, who's Kevin Smith, is going, just have to do it, just have to do it. And then the camera pans round, and it's the Quick Stop grocery store, which in reality is the Quick Stop grocery store that Kevin Smith worked in and subsequently filmed his first film in at night called Clerks. So it all comes full circle, and that was quite another wee reference for me. It's like, all comes full circle. So that was his autobiographical film that he started off and showed you how he started off working in the Quick Stop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great reference. So it is. I don't remember much about that movie. It's one that'll have to go on my rewatch list. So it's definitely something I want to catch up on. Well, after seeing that, I don't know why, but I felt like I'd let the credits run, and they ran and they ran, and at the very very end of the credits, the absolute end, it came up saying, well, seeing as you've waited this long,
Mhm.
and it was outtakes. So the
Oh,
post
very good.
credit scene with some outtakes. It's worth letting it run, but it's not a game changer. But but
Doesn't change the storyline.
no, it doesn't. But it tied into the film because of the joke, and that's probably the reason I let it run, because they said, nobody's ever gonna, there'll never be a post credit scene again. That joke in the movie.
Yeah.
That's probably the reason I let it run. And I suppose they realized that when they were doing the editing or whatever, that some people might actually hold on to the very end.
Or the post
So
credit
it's
scene.
another little thing in the movie. So I enjoyed that.
Yes, and all in all, the conclusion was it was just a feel good comedy drama, coming of age for a young boy asking a girl out and hanging out at the cinema, which is what we would have done, hang out in the cinemas and ask girls out. So it was pretty resonated with us, and I enjoyed it, and you did too.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I didn't ask too many girls out. I was a quiet wee thing when I was younger. So much.
Like myself,
But
like
yes,
myself.
I did sneak into the cinema, as we said, once or twice. So and I also like to sneak in the old days when you had to sneak in your snacks. Used to hide them in the
Yes.
lining of a coat and all. Nowadays, you just walk in with your coffee in hand, and nobody
How did you
says anything
hide? How
about
did
it.
you hide your crisps or your rustly wrappers?
Well, I remember the coats with the pockets, and the pocket was gone, so it was going down into the lining of your coat. And I remember having like a 2 liter bottle up the sleeve with your arm tucked in to the coat. You know, but
Bringing a 2 liter bottle to the cinema.
I know. I see if there was somebody beside me at the cinema with a 2 liter bottle, I'd be saying, "Oh, you get out, stop the big 2 liter bottle." Um, these are the things you do as a child.
Yeah,
Um,
and then these
at
kind of
the end of
movies
the 80s.
bring back the memories of doing that stuff. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe maybe for a future discussion is movie cinema experiences and different experiences we had when we went to the cinema
That,
hopping and things like that.
that's it. I've a lot to say, as you know, about um, what's etiquette, movie etiquette.
Movie
Um,
etiquette.
and that is a whole. I think we could talk about that for an hour. So we'll not talk about it right now, but that's definitely a discussion for another day. One thing I just do want to say about the movie we're talking about, there was a line in it that sort of gave me goosebumps, and it was, I can't even remember who said it. I just wrote it down, and he says,
I know what line you're
"Movies
gonna say.
movies make life make sense," and I
Yeah,
just love that, especially for as movie buffs like we are. It's just it was great. I loved it. So
I loved that. That was on the back steps when he was feeling like his world had fallen out of his bottom of his soul. Movies make life make sense. That'd be a good tattoo as well. I like
yeah,
that. And I noticed that in the first time I watched it. I did think that was quite a cool quote. So
yeah,
yeah, movies make life make sense.
yeah.
And that's what we do. That's why we enjoy them. Although your man at the start says E.T. wasn't real, Gandhi wasn't real, and what was the other one that wasn't real?
I'm not sure, but
Star Wars was
yeah.
real.
Oh yes, and the guy, he says, I think he says to him, I think Gandhi was real. He goes, no, he wasn't. No, he says, I know it was 3 hours long. I know that was real.
And Conan wasn't real.
That was the other one, Conan.
Conan wasn't real.
Yeah.
And something else, actually, I just remembered. This is the first representation of Kevin's parents in a film. His dad died a long time ago, um,
Right.
and he never got to put him in a film or anything. And then this is the first time he's actually put him in as a character. And the guy playing
Mm.
him was, I think it was Jason Lee, who was in Clerks and Mallrats and all other Kevin Smith films. So another wee
Yeah,
tidbit
that
from.
was, I actually quite like that scene whenever his mum said, he's tell your mum I love you, and he says I love you to the mum, and then the dad comes on. He's like, you're thinking that he's wanting him to say I love you, dad, but he's
It's
making
the
him
Igor
happy
reference.
about the movie. And yeah, that's it. So that was a good character, and I suppose it was nice for him being able to portray him in a movie.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that was good.
Well, I think we should wrap it up then and just conclude that it's definitely a movie worth watching. And if you're watching this podcast and you're interested, give it a look and maybe give a comment below and let us know what you thought of the
Yeah.
movie if you do watch it.
Absolutely. Let us know about the movie, and if you have any suggestions for a movie, old or new, to watch, let us know in the comments. And we're going to put out an episode a week. So we will, once this one's uploaded, there'll be another one a week later, and we will just don't know what that movie is yet. We haven't decided that yet. So it'll be a surprise for you. So thanks very much for watching.
All right, bye.
All the best.